We live in a world where hustle is glorified and rest feels like a crime. But what if I told you that nonstop productivity isn't making us more successful? It's making us miserable. Alright, so in today's video, we're talking about toxic positivity. I mean, shit, that's not what we're talking about. Okay, so in this video, we're talking about toxic productivity. We all know that productivity is how the world spins, and it's been ingrained into us since we were young that if you're not being productive, you're being lazy. And I'm here to tell you from a mental health standpoint that that's not the case. Constant productivity is not making us more successful, it's leading us to fail, and we're going to get into why. Alright, toxic productivity. It's the obsession with constant work at the expense of your well being. You need a balance in life, a balance between work, self care, play, downtime, which isn't laziness. Pinky promise you, not laziness. You need balance in your life just to survive and take care of yourself. So let's get into my main points here. Physical and mental health risks, at least burnout and exhaustion. If you're any form of neurodivergent, any type of mentally ill, like your boy, you know that burnout sucks. You genuinely cannot get yourself out of the rut that you're in order to be able to do different things that you need to. So, this has a lot to do with your physical health. It can be poor sleep, skipped meals, a lack of self care, and just overall bad feelings, physically and mentally, which are not fun. It can increase stress, anxiety, and depression. And if you already have all of those things, it definitely heightens it. Which heightened stress, anxiety, and depression lead to heightened stress, anxiety, and depression. I don't know how else to put that. Like, if you're depressed about being depressed, you're going to be depressed. I hope that makes sense. I'm not talking in circles. Anyway, you have a negative effect on work and creativity. It lowers your quality of work due to fatigue and burnout. So, say for example, you work a basic 9 to 5 in an office. You have to fill out the expense sheet for your business or the business you work for. And if you're doing that at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning after you've worked a full 8-hour shift and right before you work another full 8-hour shift, that's going to lead to burnout. So, the way I like to think of it is we got 24 hours in a full day, right? Midnight to midnight. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for sleep. I used to work in a job where we had different schedules. So I worked 3 to 11 at that job. I currently work 4 to 12, which is throwing me off a little bit, but that's okay. So I would use 3 to 11 to work. Outside of work hours, I'm not at work. Hell, I'm not even employed. Okay? So I would use 8 of those 16 leftover hours to sleep. The last and final 8 hours that are unaccounted for, that's my me time. That's where I relax. That's where I play my game. That's where I hang out with my family. That's where I take care of myself. And in another video, I think we're going to get into like a breakdown of how to, it's going to sound counterintuitive, how to productively use those 8 hours of downtime. But productivity isn't necessarily what you think it is. So it reduces your creativity by eliminating downtime. Personally, I'm a lot more creative when I don't have to be. It just kind of comes naturally. But when I'm sitting here planning these YouTube videos and I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, oh my god, I can't come up with a single idea. But you bet your ass when I'm on the toilet a couple hours later, creativity hits because that's downtime for me. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm literally just sitting there scrolling through my phone. That's when the creativity hits. So you need downtime in order to have creative sparks like that. It encourages short-term thinking over long-term success. I have to get this project done by 8 p.m., which means that I'm going to stay in the office past 5 p.m. to work on this. That's 3 hours of your downtime that you're cutting into, and that 3 hours can be crucial when it comes to self-care. It's also a harm in your personal life and your growth. It strains relationships by prioritizing work over loved ones. I have a 5-year-old kid. I would much rather spend 8 hours with him a day than 16 hours at work, 8 hours of sleep. That's it, no in between. It prevents self-reflection and personal development. So, developing as a person, it's not 100% based, like we've been taught, on productivity levels, the amount of work you do, the amount of, like, literal labor that you exude. You know what I mean? Is that a word? It's a word today. um, creates a fear of failure and an avoidance of risks. So a lot of people have been taught, especially in a typical 9 to 5 job, if you don't get that project done by 8, you failed. That's it. And that's not necessarily the case. Ask for an extension. If your job isn't willing to give you an extension, they suck. But I'm not here to rag on your job, I guess. An avoidance of risk, that basically means, like, I feel like you learn a lot about yourself when you take risks. It doesn't have to be like skydiving or investing millions of dollars into the stock market that could crash at any moment. It could simply be, I'm going to take the risk of taking these 8 hours to myself. And you really learn a lot about yourself there. You learn about who you are, what you like, and what you don't. And you just learn different things about the world around you. I mean, if you don't take time to get into nature or just spend time with yourself with nothing to do, there's no chance of growth, really. Well, there's a slim chance of growth, I guess. All right, unrealistic expectations and societal pressure leads to guilt over rest. Unrealistic expectations and societal pressure leads to guilt over rest and the inability to relax. So, feeling guilty over resting is something that really has been put in place by employers and people who run this country. It's not sustainable for long-term growth. It's not at all healthy physically or mentally. And the inability to relax, you have to take time with yourself in order to get to know yourself, like I just said. Encourages constant comparison between hustle culture and social media. Not everything you see on social media is legit. Let me put that out there right now. Hustle culture is toxic in so many ways. People being like, oh, I work 8 hours at my job and I put in 8 hours at my side gig, side hustle, business that I'm starting, whatever. That's cool if you can do that, but you really need to take time to care for yourself. Like, you're not going to have fulfilling productivity compared to just busyness, basically. It ties your self-worth to productivity instead of personal value. You as a person are important. Pardon. If you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be meaningfully productive. I would rather somebody work a really productive 5 hours a day, if that's what they can manage, rather than a semi-productive 12-hour day. If you get more done in 5 hours, awesome, cool. I would love that as a boss. Like, I want you to be fully productive while you're on the clock, whether that's 1 hour a day, 5 hours a day, compared to 12 hours a day where you're basically just sitting there not really doing much. Workplace and cultural impact. So it exploits employees with grind culture expectations. So, like I was saying earlier, you work that 9 to 5, your project is due at 8. You're working pretty much 3 hours of your self-care time for free, which the business and your employer enjoy because they don't have to pay you for your time, which is absolutely insane, especially if you're salaried. You know how that is. So it's just not healthy. Like, I would rather make a little bit less money, which I know is tough, and it's a privilege to be able to afford everything that you have and everything that you have to pay for in this society. I'm going to acknowledge that. I live in a bus. I don't have to pay rent, utilities, property taxes, what have you, that come with having a house or renting an apartment. And minimum wage doesn't even cut it for me living in a bus in the fucking Walmart parking lot. So I'm not going to expect you guys to, like, take a crazy pay cut just to take care of yourself. But if you are able to use more of your time to care for yourself, then I feel like that's more meaningful than any amount of money that they could pay you. Which is tough to believe in the society where it's very economically driven. But I would rather make meaningful money than just bullshit money sitting there being miserable. It pushes people to overwork without fair compensation. Like I just said, your employer loves that, especially if you're salaried. But your mental health is not going to appreciate that as much. You're not going to be productive and creative like you otherwise would be. You ignore emotional needs, treating rest as laziness. I'm going to say this right now, and you better listen up. Rest is not lazy. Rest is pertinent to being a functioning member of society. I've probably said that 5 times in this entire video, but it's really important that I double down on that. You are not lazy if you take a mental health day. You are not lazy if you choose to spend 8 hours a day doom scrolling. Is that the most mentally stimulating thing you could do? No. But that's your time, and you get to decide what kind of productivity you have in that. Whether that's just self-expression and the freedom to do whatever the fuck you want because you're an adult. That's productive. Alright, so the conclusion is true productivity is sustainable, balanced, and filling. Sustainable being that you can do it for a long period of time. Sure, you can work 3 jobs for 2 weeks, and then by that 3rd week, you're so burnt out that you're ready to quit all of your jobs and run away to a foreign country at the drop of a hat, which, I don't know, maybe running away to a foreign country this year. Talk more about that later. Balanced, you have to have time for work and yourself. You aren't going to be as productive at work if you don't take that time for yourself. I'm going to do a video later on where I talk about how you can possibly spend that 8 hours still being productive, but using it for self-care and just the ultimate well-being of yourself. Fulfilling would be like, would I rather work 5 hours a day at a job that I truly love and that truly respects me, or 12 hours a day at a job that could not care less if I dropped dead on the clock right now? They would literally scoop my body to the side and be like, okay, bring in the next interview. Like, they would replace you in the drop of a hat. I am incredibly lucky that I have a job that cares about my mental health. Mostly because I work in the mental health field, but if you work in the mental health field, you know that they don't always care about your mental health. And you can't take care of others unless you're taking care of yourself. And that goes for any job in hospitality or hell, even at a grocery store. If I'm not getting my 8 hours of sleep, ain't no way I'm stocking bread at the freaking bakery in Walmart. I'm not doing that. And if I do, it's not going to be as productive. Rest and downtime are essential, not weaknesses. You cannot be a productive member of society without taking care of yourself. There should be like a hierarchy of yourself, family, work, whatever else. There may be things in between that. You get to judge that for yourself. You're in charge. But you definitely have to take care of yourself. Like, you're at the top. If you're not taking care of yourself, everything under you crumbles. I can't accurately take care of my family and my fiance and my cat and the bus if I'm not taking care of me first. So you are not weak for taking a day off because you're tired and burnt out. You are not weak for sitting there for 8 hours being like, I'm going to stare at this wall and do absolutely nothing. If that's what you need, go for it. Strive for meaningful productivity, not just constant busyness. So meaningful productivity is where you put in effort at your job and actually get something out of it rather than putting in a little bit of effort and not really getting much out. Like, for example, I used to work at the fanciest nursing home I've ever been in. God, the food was amazing, but not the point. If I didn't take care of myself, won't no way in hell I was taking care of 30 plus residents too. Like I've said, this goes for any job. If you're not taking care of yourself, that spreadsheet's not going to be as good at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, right before you have to work the next day, and after you've already worked a full day before, as if you take time for yourself and work on it the next day. So constant busyness would just be like work, 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 16 hours straight. Some people can do that, and I applaud you if you can. But sooner or later, it's going to lead to burnout. You have to care for yourself. Check out this video up here in the corner. I tried journaling for a week and failed miserably, and that's okay. I am very willing to share my mess ups and just hold myself accountable on the internet because not all the perfect good stuff you see from other creators is real. So that's why the journal that I talked about in that previous video that I created, that's on my shop, by the way, coupon code in the description of the previous video. It's day 1, day 2, day 3, and not Monday the 1st, Tuesday the 2nd, Wednesday the 3rd. Because I don't want you to feel guilty for missing a day and looking back and being like, damn, I have to skip this whole day of journaling because it doesn't line up with the date. So I don't care if day 1, 2, and 3 are 6 months apart. As long as you're putting in the effort and attempting to journal and care for yourself, if journaling is the way you choose to do so, that's what's important. That you're putting in effort. It doesn't have to be consistent at first. You're building up a habit. What do they say? It takes like 21 days to build a habit, and I'm pretty sure they've debunked that and come to the conclusion that it takes at least 3 months to build a habit. I by no means claim to be an expert. Definitely check out other creators, check out other, scientific articles that have like experiments to back up their claims. These are just things that I have personally come to know and learned the hard way, and I want to share with you guys so you don't have to. So, anyway, video next week. I'll give y'all a sneak peek of that since I already have Notion up, which on the 19th, March 19th, I will be doing a video on a deep dive of my entire Notion dashboard and how I organize my entire life and brain on here. But for the next video, the 26th, is how to start meditating for real. Meditating is a little intimidating for some people, very good for self-care. I personally feel I do better when I meditate every day. I don't, but we're going to work on that together. So click the little bell down there, right down there, and you'll get notified when I post a video. Or go to my website, links in the description. Sign up for my newsletter. It's free. I'm not gonna spam you. I fucking hate spam. The meat in the can and the shit you get in your emails. And I'll give you guys like a little sneak peek of the video before it ever comes out for other people. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check out the description. And thanks for chilling with me. If it didn't record my entire video, I'm gonna scream.